Welcome to Wine's World. I'm Dylan.
I'm Amanda.
Our channel, The Wine Cage, is where we usually do reviews of red wines in the $10 to $50 range. Sometimes we go above that. But this is Wine's World. This is where we do more general discussion about wine.
This is our lifestyle channel.
That's right. And today we are going to do our top reasons why we love red wine, why we're passionate about it. We're not trying to sell you on it, but we're kind of trying to sell you on it. We're trying to tell you why we love red wine, what it's done for us, how it's made our lives more interesting in some ways, and more fun. I would say it makes our lives more fun on a weekly basis, usually 4 nights a week. The fun level just goes up a little bit. So, do you have any other introductory notes before we get into the top 10 proper?
Well, I would probably like to note that we're not condoning alcoholism, but we are, yeah.
I don't feel like we're promoting alcoholism at all. Alcoholism's a straight pathology, right? That's I assume that there's a sort of there's a delineating line where something becomes alcoholism. As we get into the list, actually, you'll see that what we're promoting is quite the opposite, I think.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a spoiler. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's get into the top 10. So for number 10, what I've got is that red wine has caused us to do less drinking for drinking's sake. So when we were younger, it's typical to go out for beers, to move on to spirits. You might have wine or beers with dinner, and you might go out afterwards and have more drinks. And apart from just getting older and not partying as much, drinking red wine has caused us to focus more on red wine, and it's actually lessened our drinking outside of red wine with dinner. So we don't really do beers in the afternoon or champagne or spirits before dinner or after dinner. We don't really do cocktails. Mostly we focus on red wine and red wine with food. And so to me, that's a plus because I think we're actually drinking less, and we're certainly drinking less alcohol just for the sake of drinking because we're consuming red with food at a slower pace, and that's something we'll come up to in another point. Do you have anything to say on this one?
Well, I think it's a healthy shift for the both of us. We did sort of candidly enjoy a few drinks before dinner, even up until kind of recently. I think focusing more on the wine has been, it's been more fun for starters, probably more cost-effective, would you say, because we're drinking less in general? It's definitely better for our health.
I don't know if cost-effective because wine's like cigars. It lures you in, and certainly you can get better drops for higher price points. But that's another reason for our channel, The Wine Cage. We focus on reds at lower price points, often between that sort of $15 to $25 range, though we do, as I say, review ones for much higher price points sometimes. But that you could argue over about the cost thing. But health-wise and drinking less and less kind of drinking for drinking's sake, less, binge drinking by the medical definition, certainly all of that has been the case for getting more into red wine. So that's number 10. Let's go on to number 9. For number 9, what I wanted to talk about is the way wine changes over the years. It's like a forever undulating, changing landscape. And what I mean by that is that wine regions have good periods, good years, and then they have dips. And so the whole landscape and industry of wine changes over the years. As an example, I remember in 2008, many of the Barossa Shiraz reds were mind-blowing. They were just so good. But things like that, boons in different regions come and go. And that keeps it really interesting. I've done a lot of tastings in the Yarra Valley and had periods where the kind of wines that I like are just doing really well there, Pinots and Shiraz. And then years where the wineries are just struggling a bit more. They've had a harder time. The weather might have been against them. That just makes it more kind of interesting to me. It's kind of like a good movie where there's ups and downs, or a good adventure. It doesn't just stay the same. It's not flatlining. It's not like beers or champagnes where it's basically just the same thing year after year. Wine changes, and it makes it fun to kind of watch that change and keep on top of it and learn about which regions are producing good wines in the period that you're buying them. So to me, it just makes it interesting that it's got that sort of evolving landscape. You got any thoughts on that one?
Well, I'm sort of newer to the whole wine game. I grew up in a hotter climate than where we currently live right now, and that was really more of a white wine kind of landscape, which I was never kind of that into. White wine, I'm not judging anyone who drinks white wine, I've got nothing bad to say about it, but it's not really for me. So it was sort of only in the last couple of years, really, that I got into drinking red, but I certainly agree that it's got a lot more adventure to it. It's a lot more variable, which for the better and for the worse, but that's part of what makes it fun. But we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Exactly. So that's number 9. Let's get on to number 8.
For number 8, I'd just like to say that visiting wineries and cellar doors is just fun. There's a lot of different kind of places you can go to. They're all really different. We're very lucky to live in a wine region with other wine regions within driving distance. So
wineries are just they're really fun to go to. They're places where usually they are just made to be as beautiful and alluring as possible. The cellar doors are fun. The whole experience of doing a tasting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But yeah.
It's always a great time. I always look forward to it. It's sort of like going on a miniature holiday for an hour or so. Like every time they're different.
Yeah, and if you want to spring for an actual lunch or a dinner at a winery, it's always a good experience. For number 7, I want to talk about how wine makes you read about and learn about different regions. We always read the back of the wine bottle, and obviously we talk to people at cellar door tastings. They tell you about how the wine is made. We struggle to remember all that scientific information, but it's still fun. And in general, I feel like I've learned a bit more about the geography of the country that we're in, Australia, through wine, just by looking up the different regions for the wines that we've enjoyed. And often, if you look up a region, it'll tell you what the region's known for and all that. And also overseas, we've drank wines from Spain and Portugal and France and Italy, and reading about those and just talking to wine people about the difference with the way they approach wine in Europe to Australia, the difference in the naming conventions, all that sort of stuff. So this one's just kind of saying that it's an educational experience, and it makes you learn not only more about wine, but about different areas as well. So yeah, that's my number 7. So number 6, every new bottle is different. Now, that's one of the really fun things about red wine, is that every time you get a bottle that you haven't had before, you're not sure what you're in for. Maybe you've heard things about it. Maybe you've heard things about that winemaker. Maybe you've had other wines from that winemaker. Or maybe it's a completely new thing to you. You've never heard of it, never had it before. So it's always fun. You're not quite sure what you're going to get. You have hopes, you have certain assumptions about what it's hopefully going to taste like, depending on what variety it is, but you don't really know until you crack it and have a smell and have a taste. So just the surprise factor and the anticipation of that, I think, is really fun. It's completely different to buying a beer or a spirit where you know exactly what you're going to get. What do you think about that one?
I completely agree. I'm one of those people who never orders the same thing twice from a restaurant. I love novelty when it comes to food and drink, despite mostly eating the same 3 meals on rotation at home. I guess I get all the novelty I need through the wine we drink, which is pretty amazing. And I'm not even angry when we get a bad wine, because I know that, not all wines are bad. In fact, most of them are pretty great. So
yeah, and once again, when you get a bad one, it's slightly disappointing, but at the same time, it's still wine, and it's still going to work. But also, it just provides that dip, and it keeps the variation interesting. And so, therefore, when you get a good one, it's extra fun. That's why I think it would suck to be, if you were quite wealthy and you only ever bought highly recommended great wines, I think you'd get over it.
Who wants to play it safe all the time?
Yeah. So yeah, variation and the anticipation and surprise of cracking a bottle of red. That's number 6. Let's get on to number 5. So for number 5, I wanted to talk about the fact that wine is a genuinely interesting talking point. It's something that you can discuss once again, and it's because of that whole variation, the fact that it changes over the years, the fact that it's linked to regions and certain winemakers. It's often linked to places that you might have gone on holiday and visited, especially if you're into wine. So all of that makes for a point of discussion that's particularly interesting because of those variations and those evolving factors to do with red. Once again, just more to talk about than perhaps like beers or spirits or whatever that pretty much stay the same over the years. Would you agree with that at all? I mean, it's not like we go out and chat about wine with a lot of different people. Obviously, you do it at wineries, and we love doing it. But in general, it's just interesting as a talking point.
Yeah, well, this is the whole reason we started the channel in the first place, is that you and I just devote a lot of our dinner time chat to the wine we're drinking, and we have a lot of fun talking about it. Yeah, but this is why we're trying to get you into wine, because we would like to bring you into the fold so that we can talk about wine with you.
That's right. That's number 5. Let's get on to number 4.
For number 4, selecting bottles is fun. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. Do you agree?
Yeah, very much so. That's one of my favorite things.
Just going to the wine shop, browsing the bottles. I personally, as you might know if you've watched any of our other videos, love the design aspect of wine bottles. I know I often rag on them. Sometimes I love them. Whether I like them or dislike them graphically, I just like looking at them. I'm not even angry about bad graphic design. In fact, sometimes I kind of love it. So just looking at them gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah, and that whole thing of walking into a big wine shop, and I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. There's that one, but then there's the more specialty, smaller ones. But just seeing those walls and racks of wine and knowing that you're going to walk around and have a look at them, have a read of the labels, pick one, whether it's based on recommendation or just because you like the label or because you feel like a particular variety, that whole sort of huge selection and knowing that they're constantly changing makes it very interesting, and it is, very much like a treasure hunt.
You know what I just realized that I like about it? It reminds me of going into a bookstore.
Yeah, you're right. It does have that vibe.
It's got the same kind of like excitement and joy. Like, I'm going to probably leave here with something cool.
And if you're lucky, it's got dust all over everything as well. You get that nice dusty smell that you get in a bookshop.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's number 4. Let's get on to number 3. So number 3 is for those of you who might be concerned about the health aspects of drinking red wine. I would like to make the case for the fact that with red wine, especially as you grow to appreciate it more and you actually have some stake in selecting it and hoping that it's going to be good and all that, it actually leads to you drinking slower. We don't really sit around drinking red wine like this much. We pretty much only have it with food, with dinner. And when you drink red wine with dinner, you generally drink slower because you're kind of eating, you're talking, you're having a sip. So it definitely is a antidote to binge drinking or drinking too fast. That's not to say that you can't throw back wine, but I have to say that usually tends to happen more when you've messed up and accidentally got a really bad bottle. Then you might want to just put it away. But even better then, if you're worried about the health concerns, put it in the fridge and cook with it or something. But when you've got a good red, it actually feels like a waste to slam it, to drink it too quickly. So I think it's fair to say that red wine has caused us to drink a lot more slowly, a lot more mindfully, and with food. And therefore, it has been a healthier way of drinking alcohol than many others. All right, we're getting near the top of the list here at number 2. This one's an important one. Red wine is only one step away from being the blood of Christ. Now, we're not religious, But you have to admit that Christ is generally considered to be a pretty right guy. And he's got some great quotes as well. And while we don't know how to actually do transubstantiation, we appreciate the fact that the red that we're drinking is just that little step away from being the blood of Christ.
So true.
Do you have any deeply religious thoughts on this?
No.
That's a no. With that said, let's get on to our final number 1.
Alrighty, ready for number 1? Number 1 is that it makes most meals 100% better. Now, I don't include breakfast in that, although we haven't tried it.
I'm not drinking red wine with breakfast. I mean, I'll go, if we're on holiday, I'll go a Bloody Mary or a vodka orange, but I don't really want that. We're talking about dinner here.
Well, it just makes it so much more enjoyable for us. We tend to sit longer, we linger over our meals, we linger over the wine. We have fun pairing wine with our food or with our food with the wine.
Yeah, and, obviously we have, several nights a week that we don't drink at all. It's not easy, but we stick to that for health reasons. But the nights where we do get to have red, especially the first night, for us it's usually Thursday night, that we'll crack a bottle. It's exciting every single time.
Yes.
And that's not even a lie. That's completely genuine. It's that exciting every single time. It's exciting because we're going to get to drink some red with dinner. We know the dinner's probably going to be longer and we're probably going to have deeper, longer conversation during that meal. And it's that we're going to get to drink red wine with dinner, but it's also the anticipation that I was talking about earlier about what's this one going to be like? What are we going to think of it? We're going to talk about the label. All the stuff that we do on our regular reviews on the Wine Cage is what we do naturally just between us when we're drinking a good red with dinner. So that's our main selling point. Our main case for a red wine is that it makes dinners a whole lot more fun and, more civilized, as I say.
Turns it into an event, really, doesn't it? Like, we spend days where we know we're going to be having a glass of wine with dinner, like excited about sitting down to dinner. It's really like a highlight for us, not just because of the wine, but usually because it's towards the end of the week as well. But it makes it feel like we're kind of at a nice restaurant or something, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, set a nice table and have a good dinner with a bottle of red.
Yeah, maybe light a candle, put some good music on. We often sit for hours just chatting and finishing off the last few sips of our glass.
All that cliche shit is completely worth it, and we recommend it. So that is us making our case for red wine and our top 10 reasons why we enjoy it and why you might enjoy it. Red wine is a bit like smoking a pipe.
Which I've never done.
I've smoked a pipe. I wish more people smoked pipes just so that I could enjoy the secondary smoke. My grandfather used to smoke pipes, and that secondary smoke is one of the loveliest smells. Someone once gave me a pipe, and I tried it, and the primary smoke tastes like burning garbage. But the secondary smoke of pipes is great. And anyway, my point is that red wine's a little bit like pipe smoking and all the different tobaccos, and it's just a nice old worldy experience that I think is a little healthier than pipe smoking.
I would say so.
So that's going to be it for our top 10 reasons, the case for red wine here on Wine's World. And we hope that you join us as well on our regular review videos on the Wine Cage. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again on Wine's World.
Cheers.